All right, everyone. As the description says, aside from a Christmas holiday or a PonyCon or a new episode, it is one of my favorite times of the year. It is Selection Sunday night, obviously. So, granted, most of you know who is facing who at this point. Be spoiled because I wanted to do as I usually do, I do a action after I get home from work. So I have been spoiler free, aside from knowing who won the conference championships earlier today, which Purdue being one of them. I've been spoiler free, so I don't know yet. Honestly, like last year, I came pretty close to getting every team right. I was one team off, Texas A&M. I thought that they had done enough during the course of their conference tournament to get in last year. Unfortunately, they didn't, so it was the only one I missed. And honestly, when I compare what I have to one of the, I think, smarter bracketologists out there, which is Joe Lunardi, he actually, even though we disagree a lot, he does tend to know his stuff. I'm actually right there with him, like in terms of like who's the last four in. In terms of last four in, we're the exact same, being NC State, Rutgers, Arizona State, and Pittsburgh. I think to me, those four have done enough to be in the field. And then my first four out is almost aligned with his, except Vanderbilt, who I didn't even have on the board because to me, their net number was way too far down the board. So I had Oklahoma State, I had Oregon on this list, Clemson, and Nevada. I think Lunardi had everybody except for Oregon. So yeah, I am looking forward to seeing what the committee has decided. It was a thrilling champ week time as always leading up to this point. I'm also going to say this is going to be one of the tougher, and I'm sure, and maybe I say this a lot, I don't know. This is going to be one of the tougher years to pick, especially since the mid-majors in this field are so loaded and so solid. Like potentially there could be some very dangerous 12, 13 seeds that could really win a game or two, or even more. I mean, we saw last year with a 15 seed in St. Peter's going all the way to the Elite Eight, which I know doesn't happen very often, but still, it shows you that when these red hot teams get red hot at the right time, they can go on these deep runs. And certainly a lot of these mid-major teams that are in this field that won their automatic bids could certainly make runs. I'm talking about teams like, a Florida Atlantic at a Conference USA. They're not going to be double-digit seed, I don't think. I think they're going to be a little bit above that, but they could certainly do that. Or an Oral Roberts, who we've seen do that before as a 15 seed. A Charleston out of the CAA. A Drake out of the Missouri Valley. A VCU out of the Atlantic 10, who I'm very much a fan of and love the way they play. An Ione out of the MAC. There are so many solid teams on the mid-majors that can make a run and just stun one of these upper-tier teams. So I'm ready to see what the committee has decided, see whether, who's facing who, what the brackets look like. Let's do this thing. I can't wait any longer. I'm so freaking excited. All right.
Right away if you get a lump or swelling in your neck, severe stomach pain.
So I'm going to have at least 5 teams that I support to root for, which is being Purdue, TCU, Northwestern, VCU, and then Grand Canyon, who also made it out of the WAC. Very surprised that they emerged as the champion of the WAC, but very happy for the Lopes. So only their second ever NCAA tournament appearance, along with Northwestern. So very happy for both those schools. Yeah. Get on with it. Again, I should probably have all my team colors here at the ready.
52 days, one team will hoist this coveted trophy. To be the champion, you need to be one of the NCAA's 68 tournament teams. 32 teams have earned an automatic bid, and 36 are about to receive their at-large invitation. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship Selection Show. I'm Greg Gumbel alongside Clark Kellogg, Seth Davis, Jay Wright, who knows a thing or two. Sunday. What's it like?
I'm sorry, I never really, you know me as a Carolina fan, I've never liked Villanova. Y'all know that for reasons.
But I'm thinking about my guys today. In 2008, we were the last team to get in. And I'm thinking about the anxiety we had that day, but the excitement too. And everybody that's thinking that way right now, we're with you. Enjoy it. We're going to get to it fast.
Yeah. No, excited. I just
Well, I'm sure they'll get through it fast, but I'm sure that I will pause at certain points to discuss and really react to what this committee has decided. Because I have always said this, if I were a part of the committee, I would highly value quality wins, like who you've beaten. If you have any bad losses weighing down your profile, and then that would be like my top two I'd factor in, and then I would look at your computer numbers. I don't really think that those should be the major underlying factor. It's a factor, but it's not the be-all, end-all factor. Because remember, the highest seeded net team ever missed a tournament a few years ago, that was NC State. Their net was 33. So it can happen, but not very often.
It has been a wild and woolly season in college basketball. The tournament's going to be awesome as always. Mr. Gumbel, if you please.
Sure.
Read the name.
Without further delay, let's begin the review. Here are the tournament brackets from the NCAA and the corporate champion Capital One. We begin in the South region, where the overall number one seed is the Alabama.
No surprise there that Alabama is the overall one. That's no surprise. Won the SEC.
They sidestepped a situation involving criminal activity in which Brandon Miller was associated.
Yeah, and that's the one big question mark when you look at, Alabama. That whole thing with the Brandon Miller situation, it's like, I get it, but he hasn't been charged with anything yet. So he's playing amazing through all this. I wish the team would handle it a little bit better, but you got to commend Alabama for the job that they've done in resolve of that. All right, so these games obviously are in Birmingham, is that pod of the South. And then the next two would be in Orlando.
They are here as the number one overall seed, and they will be in the first and second round games with Birmingham, Alabama on Thursday and Saturday. They will meet.
Okay, so they will get the winner of Corpus Christi and SEMO. So this is the South. And we kind of knew that those two teams would be in the first four. I didn't have this particular matchup, mind you, but we kind of knew that these two would be here. And we kind of had a feeling that that one of those games would feed into the South region where Alabama would away. So Texas A&M Corpus Christi, champs of the Southland, 23-10. Taking on Southeast Missouri State at 19-16, the surprise winner from the Ohio Valley, the first 5 seed to ever win the Ohio Valley Conference Tournament.
Of the first 4 game in Dayton, Ohio on Tuesday between Texas A&M Islanders, Corpus Christi Islanders, 23-10 on the season. They beat Northwestern State, making consecutive Southland tournament titles. They will go up against Southeast Missouri State, the Red Hawks out of the Ohio Valley.
There's the Red Hawks watch party. They're pretty obviously thrilled.
Year 2000, they captured the Ohio Valley Conference Tournament with a big overtime win against Tennessee Tech. Now,
All right.
continuing on down to
8
South
seed
Region.
Maryland.
The Terps of
Okay, I
Maryland.
did have Maryland on the 8 line. I did have Maryland on the 8, not in this region, but I did have Maryland on the 8 line. So I got that seed right. There's the first Big Ten team. I did have Maryland on the 8.
10. They've got Jameer Young. No questions about him. He leads the Terps in scoring and assists. Maryland with a 21-2 record overall.
21-12, not 21-2.
West Virginia's Mountaineers.
Oh, I had Maryland, West Virginia. I had it in a different region, but I had Maryland, West Virginia. All right. I had this matchup. I had Maryland, West Virginia. That'll be a really good 8-9 matchup. That just has the feel of an 8-9. That's a really good 8-9 matchup. But West Virginia, though, has a lot less. I mean, West Virginia playing in the battle-tested Big 12, a lot of quality wins. That's going to be a challenge for Maryland. That could be one where I might be tempted to pick the 9.
There's going to be some bruises coming out of that game. It's going to be a tough one.
First and second round games in Orlando, Florida on Thursday.
5 is San Diego State.
Aztecs of San.
I did have San Diego State on the 5. Yep. Champs of the Mountain West. San Diego State's been like a staple of the Mountain West. Like they've been dominating that conference now for years. Oh, they get Charleston. Ooh, that is an awful matchup for San Diego State. Oh, I was wondering who the Cougs would get. And oh man, that does. I did have Charleston on 12, but that does no favors to San Diego State. Because Charleston is one of those dangerous mid-major teams. This team won 31 games, and I watched them play in their CAA tournament. Dangerous team. Oh, that is because San Diego State, like they're a defensive-minded team. They don't really put up a lot of points usually. Charleston can score in bunches. That screams upset all over it. Oh, that's terrible for San Diego State.
The Cougars of Charleston, 31-3. Terrific season.
This team knows how to win. They're deep. They shoot a bunch of threes, score the ball at a high rate. This is going to be one of those 12-5 matchups that I could see people picking Charleston, and I would too. That's a terrific.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Hi, Clyde.
The Cavaliers of Virginia.
And Virginia is the 4. Ooh. And Virginia is another team that really does not score a whole lot of points. They are very defensive minded. And do remember in the ACC title game, that was a low-scoring, grind-out affair against Duke, even though they lost that game. And Virginia just, I mean, if it works, it works. But, like, that's not a very high-scoring team. Charleston might make some noise there. Like, honestly, like if they can shoot the lights out of these defensive-minded teams, Charleston could end up in the Sweet 16.
They will meet the Paladins of Furman.
And Furman gets Virginia. Okay, and I had Furman on the 13 line, not this matchup, but I did have Furman on the 13 line. That top half, I mean, obviously Alabama's going to be the favorite to come out of that top half, but man, I could see Charleston. I could really see them getting through to the Sweet 16. I really could. I could see them taking down both San Diego State and Virginia.
School record 27 wins on the year, 27-7 overall.
There you go, Furman.
That's a tough matchup for Virginia. Paladins are excellent. and intelligent.
And they're a little bit psyched, too. All right, let's go to first and second round games to be played in Denver, Colorado on.
All right, so now the bottom half. So these are Denver and Sacramento. Okay.
Friday and Sunday. Out of the Big East, the 6th seed.
Creighton. Okay. This is the first seed I'm a little off on. Because I think so far I've been accurate on all the seeds at least. Yeah, I've been accurate on the seeds for each teams. This is where I'm one off. I had Creighton as a 7. The committee puts them on the 6. Creighton is always one of those teams that is very streaky. They're very hit and miss. When Creighton's good, they are very good. When they're bad, they're bad. And it just depends on what kind of team you're going to get with Creighton. So I like the way Creighton plays. I always have. But what kind of team are you going to get? And as a 6, that could be dangerous, but we'll see what happens.
The Creighton Blue Jays, coached by Greg McDermott. He's now taking the Blue Jays.
There you go, Blue Jays.
Any coach in school history. They won 14 of their last 19 conference games. They will take on the 11th seed Wolfpack of North Carolina.
Okay, so NC State avoids the first 4. Wow. Okay, that's huge. Okay, so NC State is in, but they are not in Dayton. Wow, that is the first big surprise right there. That NC State is safely in the tournament. They are not a first 4 team. Wow. I thought for sure that NC State, with how they've struggled down the stretch, would have dropped to Dayton. But no, they are in. They are safely in the field. Wow. Well, that makes me wonder then if Mississippi State dropped to the first 4, because a lot of folks thought that maybe Mississippi State would fall to the first 4 in after getting blown out by Alabama. We'll see. That's interesting. That's the first big surprise to me, that NC State is safely in the field.
Second team out of the ACC.
And that is a bubble team. North Carolina State checking in at number 11. Not even in the first 4. I thought they might get left out. Maybe it bodes well for the ACC. We'll see.
All right, the number 3 seed in the South, the Baylor Bears at 22.
Baylor. I did have Baylor on the 3 line. Yep. Baylor, always a dangerous team, even though I don't like them because I'm a TCU fan. Baylor, 22-10, tough Big 12 this year, but always plays well, always plays tough. They are going to be a tough out for anybody that they take on in this tournament.
2-10, they finished tied for 3rd in the very, very tough Big 12.
Yes.
11 games. They will meet the Gauchos of
and they get UC Santa Barbara. I had this matchup. All right. Again, not the right region, but I did have this matchup. I did have Baylor and UC Santa Barbara. All right. So the Gauchos out of the Big West. I'm bummed that it wasn't UC Irvine. My Anteaters lost in the semifinal to Fullerton, but Gauchos have been great all year. I don't know if they'll can knock off Baylor. I'm uncertain about that because I don't think they're a strong offensive team, but you never know.
UC Santa Barbara out of the Big West. Gauchos Big West regular season co-champs, and they won the Big West tournament title. First and second round games in Sacramento, California. The second team out of the SEC.
Okay, Missouri. I did have Missouri on the 7 line. Yep, I agree with that. Yep. Missouri, very scary number 7 seed. A lot of people underestimate Missouri, I think. They made it to the SEC semis, gave Alabama a really strong game. So they could be a very dangerous, potentially number 7 seed.
Missouri Tigers, the number 7 seed, got off to a 9-0 start on the season, finished 24-9 on the season. Philly, the second seed, the second team.
Utah State is a 10. Wow. Wow. Okay. I did not have Utah State that high. I had them on the 11. I thought that maybe their lack of quadrant 1 wins was going to hurt them, but no, the committee says nope, we like the Aggies. Utah State as a 10. That is actually a pretty dangerous matchup though for Missouri, because Utah State does shoot the ball very well. They really, if they get going from the outside, they can potentially win that game against Missouri. That's going to be, I think, a very high scoring matchup. Keep your eye on that one. That could be very, but I'm very surprised that Utah State ends up on the 10.
For the Mountain West and the 10th seed, the Utah State Aggies. We were all impressed by them downstairs.
And lots of people had them out or last for it in as a 10 seed comfortably in, and I agree with putting them there.
All right, the number 2 seed in the South as we round out the South.
Okay, Arizona. Yep, I had Arizona on the 2. I agree 100%. Arizona, Pac-12 champs. They are going to be, I think, a popular pick to go very far in this tournament. 28-6 out of the Pac-12. Won a great game against UCLA in the Pac-12 final. Even though they were down big in that game, came back to win. So, yeah, Arizona definitely going to be a popular pick to go far, I think. There we go.
Out of the Pac-12, the Arizona Wildcats. Second in the Pac-12, and then
there you go, guys.
Over the top seed, UCLA.
That's the best party right there.
Outdoor party, enjoying it.
Princeton Tigers, winners of the Ivy League.
Oh, they dropped Princeton down to a 15. Wow. Okay. I had them on the 14 line, but they put Princeton down to a 15. I mean, they were, to be fair, Princeton was a surprise winner of the Ivy. They weren't expected to beat Yale. So it was a surprise win for them. But congrats to the Tigers. Played very well. I think they led Yale mostly start to finish. So very impressive. So congrats to them for getting in and pulling a bit of a surprise on the last day.
Back-to-back 20-win seasons for the Princeton Tigers. So let's review this bracket as we slide back up to the top. What stands out to you, Seth?
Well, many surprised Alabama getting the overall number 1 seed, passing Kansas
I'm not.
Houston. Both those teams.
I'm not surprised at all.
Region, guys, you named it. Charleston beats San Diego State. Furman beats Virginia. Charleston to the Sweet 16, and UC Santa Barbara is going to the Sweet 16. Baylor's lost a couple first-round games over there.
What?
I'll give it all in the first round. Yeah, that's it.
Fully
Wow.
I'm interested in the rest of these 8-9 matchups. This is a doozy, as Jay said, 2 physical teams, up and down seasons. But I tell you what, that'll be a tough matchup. Whoever comes out of that game against most likely Alabama, that'll be a fun one to watch.
Jay, take a look at the bottom part of this bracket for us.
I like 2 games there. Utah State and Missouri teams can really score. That
Yes.
in the 90s.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
I also think Princeton is back to the Pete Carrill days. That is a team you do not want to face. They're executing at a high level. I still think Arizona will come through.
All right, guys. The Capital One NCAA March Madness.
That's only one region, and we got some doozy matchups so far. Holy cow.
Almost ready for your picks. Get your picks started at play.ncaa.com. Dozens of teams across the country anticipating where they'll go, who they will play, including Texas A&M, Kansas, Kennesaw State, Oral Roberts, and Houston, to name a few. The order of the field is set. You reveal the Midwest Region Women's Basketball Championship Selection Show continues.
All right. Fast forward the commercials.
Our reveal return practice from the NCAA
All right.
and its corporate champion.
Where are we going? Okay, Midwest region.
Now to the upper right quadrant, and the second overall number 1 seed headed to the Midwest region, the Houston.
Houston. All right. Houston's number 1 in the Midwest.
Excuse me, they win the American. And you have an issue with the Houston Cougars where they are?
I'm thrilled for Houston. I hope they get to Houston for the Final Four. I do not see the case for Houston over Kansas on the overall.
I mean, Houston lost to Memphis in the American title game. That is true. But Kansas also lost their Big 12 title game to Texas, and by a bigger margin. Texas beat Kansas by 20 without Bill Self. Houston lost to Memphis by a lesser margin without Marcus Sasser, their best player. So, I mean, that is debatable, but I can understand the committee why they would take Houston over Kansas in that situation. I can understand that. So, I'm not upset about it. All right. First half is in Birmingham, and the second half is in Albany. Okay.
Why do we care? Because if Kansas is in this spot, Kansas is going to Kansas City. Now they have to go to one of the other two regions. Kansas had 10 more quad one wins and a much harder strength of schedule. I'm rooting for the Cougars. I love you guys, but I would have had Kansas here.
We'll be talking to the chair a bit later on. You can bring that up. They'll be facing the 16th seed
Northern Kentucky.
North. Good season out of the Horizon League, 22-12.
All right. Northern Kentucky, the Norse, surprising champs of the Horizon League. Although they have tournament experience, they've been a couple times recently in the past few years.
In the year, Marcus Warwick, their go-to guy, averages a team high 19.1 points a game. Moving on to the Midwest region.
All right,
The
8
second
seed.
team out of the Big Ten, number 8.
There's Iowa. All right, I did have Iowa on the 8 line in this region. In fact, I did have Iowa here. Iowa, another one of those teams, kind of like Creighton, very much kind of a streaky team. You know, when they're on and they shoot well, they're a really dangerous team. When they're off, they're not very good. So, very much but playing a tough conference in the Big Ten. So, you know, they are battle tested. So we'll see what Iowa's going to bring to us in the tournament.
Jeffrey taking the Hawkeyes to their third straight NCAA tournament appearance. They will meet the Auburn top.
And they get Auburn. Okay. Another team that the seed, I think here is interesting. I had Auburn as a 10, but the committee decides nope, we think Auburn's a lot safer. They're on the 9 line. Very interesting. Very interesting there. So Auburn, safe.
Began the season winning 16 of their first 19 games, ended up 20-12 on the year. They're the third team out of the SEC.
Great 8-9 game. Iowa can get hot, and Auburn can defend. That's going to be a heck of a game.
Yeah.
The first and second round games in Albany, New York on Friday and Sunday now. The number 5 seed in the Midwest.
Miami. I did have them on the 5. Yep. Solid team out of the ACC.
So Miami Hurricanes, Coach Jim Laranaga's squad.
Yep, Jim Laranega, very good coach. Hi, Sebastian.
15-5 record, went to the ACC tournament semis before losing to Duke. Who will they meet? Out of Missouri Valley, it's going to be the Drake Bulldogs.
And they get Drake. Oh, okay. I don't know if that's a great matchup for Drake. I mean, certainly Drake is the kind of 12 seed that can pull a surprise, but going up against Miami, a team that can get up and down the floor, always seems to have good guard play. I don't know. I did have this matchup. I did have this matchup. I had Miami and Drake right there. There you go, Midwest. I actually had this matchup. So I did get this one right in terms of matchup. I did call that one. All right. Let's see. That could certainly, Drake could certainly another 12 seed that could pull a surprise, but with Miami, that's a tougher matchup than like what Charleston has with San Diego State.
This 5 seed Miami team is dangerous because of their ability to score, they could possibly come out against a Baltimore Houston team with Sasser's status
Yes.
because of injury.
All right, 4 seed in the Midwest region, the Indiana Hoosiers.
And Indiana's on the 4. I did have Indiana on the 4 line. Yep. Oh, and Indiana is going to be dangerous. Indiana has been playing. I mean, I know that I'm not a fan of them being a Purdue fan and a Purdue grad, but Indiana is going to be a dangerous team in this tournament, I think. They've been playing so well of late, so well this season. Trace Jackson Davis, Hood Schifino. I mean, their guard play is outstanding. They are a loaded team and very well coached by Mike Woodson. They've got a good team.
Trace Jackson Davis, all Big Ten first team for the Hoosiers, who finished 22-11 on the season. They will take on the Golden Flashes of Kent.
And they get Kent State. Very interesting matchup here. Very interesting matchup with Indiana and Kent State because these two have met before. When Indiana went to the Final Four way back in 2002, when Mike Davis was the head coach, Indiana played Kent State for a spot in the Final Four, which Indiana won. And then they went on to lose in the title game to Maryland before Maryland was a member of the Big Ten. So Indiana has history with these Kent State Golden Flashes. But Kent State, very interesting team. I watched them play in the MAC title game against Toledo. And I honestly thought Toledo was going to come out of the MAC hands down. Because Toledo, I watched Toledo play in person against Ball State, and Toledo looked really, really good. Kent State dominated that game against Toledo. Like, they really did not let Toledo get in an offensive rhythm. They were just completely dominating them in every aspect. So very interesting matchup there. Yeah, just very interesting matchup with the history that those two teams have.
State, the 13th seed out of the Mid-American. After second place finish in the MAC, they knocked off top seed Toledo in the MAC tournament. First and second round games in Greensboro.
All right, then the bottom half. In Greensboro and Des Moines. All right, the 6th seed is Iowa State. Okay, so I had them actually one spot higher. I had Iowa State as a 5. But Iowa State is a very dangerous team. Again, playing in that very competitive Big 12 conference. Again, it's one of those teams you got to watch out for. When they're on it, they're on it.
North Carolina on Friday and Sunday. The number 6 seed, the Iowa State Cyclones. Third team out of the Big 12. They made consecutive NCAA tournament appearances for the first time since 2013 to 2015. And the first 4, they'll play.
Okay, there's Mississippi State. All right, so Mississippi State is in. They're not on the last 4 buys as I had them, but they do go to Dayton as one of the last 4 in. There we go. So Mississippi State is in the field, but they are going to Dayton, taking on Pitt. That'll be a really good matchup. Both teams have played really well down the stretch. So it'll be interesting to see who comes out of that matchup to get a very dangerous Iowa State team in that next round. And I think potentially whoever wins that game could potentially take out Iowa State, because usually a team that plays in Dayton in the first 4 usually goes, at least every year, I think, has gone on to win at least a second game. So of that 11 or 12 matchup in the first 4. So keep your eye on these two with Mississippi State and Pitt. These two teams played really well down the stretch, did enough to get in the field, and now one of them has a chance to play their way in to the main draw to take on a very good Iowa State team. So keep your eye on that first 4 matchup.
Ohio on Tuesday, March 14th, it'll be Mississippi State Bulldogs. Southeastern Conference, 4th team out of the SEC. They will meet the Pittsburgh Panthers, the 4th team out of the Atlantic Coast Conference. Finished 14th in the ACC.
Jeez, they're picked dead last.
2 of your last. And Pittsburgh coming out of the ACC. They had a 1-point win over North Carolina, and they won at Northwestern back in November. No one paid attention then. Northwestern won a ton of games that helped their case.
Okay,
It did.
3 seed in the Midwest region. 2nd team out of the Big East.
Xavier on the 3 line. Wow. Okay, I'm a little surprised at that. I had Xavier as a 4 seed. So they, especially after they lost the Big East title game, but committee clearly respects this Xavier team, the job that they did. Big East was very strong from a top-heavy perspective with Marquette, with Xavier, Creighton, of course, UConn, Providence. So, but Xavier plays really well. They make you work for it.
Who went to the Big East tournament final before losing to Marquette. They will play out of the Atlantic.
And they get Kennesaw State. They get the Owls, making their first NCAA tournament appearance. You want to talk about a great story, you look no further than Kennesaw State. Because the Owls, to think this team a few years ago only won 1 game, all year. And now here they are a few years later making their first NCAA tournament appearance. Awesome story. If you subscribe to The Athletic, there's a great article on them. I recommend reading it. I think a lot of people are going to be rooting, if you want a feel-good underdog story, for Kennesaw State. There you go, guys. Enjoy it. There you go.
They are ready to roll, great confidence, and they are excited about being here, obviously, and that's a comfortable matchup.
First and second round games in Des Moines, Iowa on Thursday.
All right, 7 seed.
Team out of the SEC, the Aggies of Texas.
There's Texas A&M. Okay, I'm thinking maybe they dropped a seed after that loss to Alabama. I had them as a 6, but certainly as a 7, they are a dangerous team. Texas A&M has played really well of late. They earned their spot this year. After missing the tournament last year, at that run they had the conference tournament, they deserve their spot this year, and they more than earned it. So they're in comfortably as a 7 seed.
Coach Buzz Williams, SEC Coach of the Year, takes into their first NCAA tournament since 2018.
There you go.
Tough seed for them, finishing 2nd in the regular season, 15-3, and then making it to the finals.
They've got a Big Ten team in their sights because the number 10 seed, the Nittany Lions of Penn State.
There's Penn State, and there's Penn State. And I had them on the 10 line. Yep. What an impressive run by Penn State. Like, Penn State, the work that they had to do just to get into the field, this team came through in the clutch down the stretch. That is a dangerous 7-10 matchup. I know A&M has played great this year, but I would not want to face Penn State right now in the NCAA tournament. That's a rough matchup for A&M because Penn State, Jalen Pickett playing really well, and Penn State is going to be a very scary number 10 seed. I have a feeling if A&M doesn't play their best in that game, Penn State certainly could. It makes me wonder now who the 2 seed is in their region. Like, if it's someone like Marquette, I'd be afraid for Penn State. If it's not, I don't know. But
22 and 13, first time since 2011.
there you go. There you go, Penn State. There you go.
They've got Jalen Pickett rolling for them, all Big Ten first team selection. And rounding out the Midwest region, the number 2 seed, the Texas.
Oh, it's Texas. Okay. Well, so you could potentially have Texas A&M Texas in round 2. Oh, that's interesting. I'm sure A&M fans love that. You could potentially have a Texas showdown in the second round with A&M and Texas both win their first round games. Ooh, that's scary. Texas is a really good team. Just won the Big 12 title, Big 12 tournament title. They're a scary 2 seed. They're a very scary 2 seed for sure. But I'm telling you, whoever comes out of that 7-10 game with A&M and Penn State, they could give Texas a game. They could very much give Texas a game.
4th team out of the Big 12, where they knocked off top seed Kansas for the Big 12.
There you go, Longhorns.
And they will play 14th seeded Colgate.
And they get Colgate. Okay, that's interesting. That is interesting because Colgate has been a very dangerous mid-major over the past few years because they have come very close to potentially pulling off a first-round upset. They've come close the last few years. Colgate is one of those teams that makes you work. They will make you work for it, and it would not, like, obviously based on to be a surprise if they took down Texas. It would, but honestly, with the way Colgate plays, and the way they've come close past few years, it might not be all that much of a surprise. So I think it's going to happen, no, but it would not shock me if Colgate were to take Texas down because they've been so close the last few years. I think it's 14 seeds of taking down. I know they almost beat Wisconsin one year, and then there was the year before that where they almost did it again. So they've been on the cusp. That is a loaded lower half of the Midwest region. The top half, really, the South scares me to death. The South could very much be a region of doom or a region of chaos because there's a lot of good teams in that region. The Midwest, the top half, depending on Marcus Sasser's health, really to me does not pose that much of a challenge for Houston. The bottom half is loaded. The bottom half has some really scary teams in it. That bottom half is going to be very hard to pick for the Midwest.
Back to the top of this bracket, Clark, is there a team there or a matchup there that stands out to you?
Well, Iowa's a very interesting team because of their ability to score. They've got a dynamic player in Chris Murray. And when you think about their ability to score the ball against the defense of Auburn and then look ahead to a potential matchup with the number 1 seed, I think Iowa's in a position where they can maybe make some noise.
Yeah, I agree. I think Houston's got a tough spot right there because Iowa or Auburn coming out is tough. And then if you go down the bracket, that Texas A&M Penn State game, I'm
Yes.
a little confused with that Texas A&M seeding. But
They should have been seeded a little higher.
oh, definitely second place in the 8th.
Yeah, Texas A&M as a 7 is a bit of a surprise.
And then making it to the finals. But that game against Penn State, those two teams, that could be the best first round game of the tournament.
I'd like Pittsburgh to get into a second round game against Xavier, where they will be playing Sean Miller. Pitt was his alma mater. I think this part of the bracket sets up very well for Texas. And by the way, you talked about Miami. They have an injury issue. Their big guy, Morshad Omir, went out early in the game against Duke. I like Drake to beat Miami and then to beat Indiana in the second round.
Oh,
My Kent State team is high octane and a very good defensive team. They lost a couple
Seth
of
has
games.
Drake going to the
They
Sweet
got
16.
that.
I don't know.
During the non-conference
I don't
season, they can
know.
play with anybody.
All right, guys, 2 regions down, 2 to go. The wait is over for half the field. Several teams still anxiously awaiting their fate. When will their names be called? Who will they play? Look at the reactions of a few of the very joyous teams to go to spot the big dance. We will be in this region when the March Madness show continues at CBS.
Some very good matchups thus far as we're halfway through. Some very, very intriguing matchups thus far. So far, I can't really be, aside from a few seeding issues, I really can't be too miffed at the committee right now from what we're seeing this first half.
Our 68-team tournament field. Back to the bracket from the NCAA.
All right.
Corporate champion
Here we go.
T&T5G. We're now in the
West region.
Lower right quadrant where the Kansas Jayhawks.
Okay, here's where Kansas is the one.
Jayhawks get the best of news today. Coach Bill Self discharged from a hospital. Says he's looking forward to.
All right, so Kansas is the one. I mean, again, that's no surprise. We fully expected, even though they lost to Texas in the Big 12 title game, we fully expected Kansas to remain on the one line. So Kansas will be the one in the West.
Rejoining the team this week for the school's release. They were one seed for the second straight year, 16th time overall.
Yeah, that's the best news. You know, the Bill Self is recovering and going to be with this team going forward.
Okay. All right, so these are in Des Moines. And the next half is in Albany. Okay.
Play first and second round games to be played in Des Moines on Thursday.
And they get the Howard Bison. Now, I had Howard in the play-in game. I had Howard in there. That probably means then that the other 16 is Fairleigh Dickinson against Texas Southern, more than likely. All right, so Howard. Great story, the Howard Bison. First tournament appearance in a long time.
And Saturday, they will be up against the 16th seed Bison of Howard University. They return to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 1992.
92, that's
Moving
right.
on, the 8th seed, the Razorbacks.
Okay, Arkansas. Okay, I made a last-minute change after Memphis won the American tournament. I moved Memphis up, and I dropped Arkansas down from an 8 to a 9. But the committee clearly still likes Arkansas. So Arkansas is the 8th seed here in the West. Again, they have that feel of an 8 seed, 20-13 record. Again, can be hot at times, or other times they tend to struggle.
Arkansas, 6th seed out of the SEC, 20-13 season overall, and 8-10.
And they get Illinois. Interesting matchup there. They're 20-12, yes. Very strong SEC. Another Big Ten SEC matchup on the 8-9 line here. I did have Illinois on the 9, so that was right. Man, these 8-9 matchups really strong.
You see, they'll take on the 9th seed Fighting Illini of Illinois, taking it to their 3rd straight NCAA tournament.
Another great 8-9 game. Man, we've got some great 8-9.
Yes. Yes. This could be the best group of 8-9s ever.
The 5th seed, the Gales of St. Mary's.
Okay, there's St. Mary's on the 5. I think I had them on the 6. Yeah, I had St. Mary's on the 6 line. So St. Mary's goes up one spot, but St. Mary's always a dangerous team out of the West Coast. Always plays well, much like Gonzaga. Always a team to watch. Always recruits well. Very dangerous team. Can really score the ball well and play strong defense.
West Coast Conference title with Gonzaga. They will meet the 12th seed Rams.
Oh, and they get VCU. Let's go. Oh, I think VCU can beat St. Mary's. Oh, and not just because I'm a VCU fan. That's a great matchup for VCU. That is a great matchup for VCU. That game could be the first to 50. Like, honestly, it could, with the way these two teams play defense, that could be a grinded out. Just the way the game VCU played it against Dayton, it was very much a low scoring game, but that favors VCU. So if they take St. Mary's out of their offensive rhythm, VCU could win that game. Oh man, that is a dream 5-12 upset pick right there. I'm not as high on Drake over Miami, but I am on Charleston, and I certainly am on VCU to take down St. Mary's. Oh.
VCU, they won the Atlantic 10 regular season title, went all the way to the tournament championship, defeating Dayton. The 4th seed, UConn.
There's UConn. Okay, dangerous 4 seed alert. There's the UConn Huskies. They could certainly go on a run, especially when they're playing in close to their own backyard here in Albany. UConn is a very dangerous number 4 seed. I think I had him as a 3. I had him as a little bit higher than that, but still very dangerous team. They could certainly go on a run. Well coached, always good guard play, very dangerous.
Yeah, they're trending in the right direction. A very, very dangerous team, capable of getting to Houston.
Yes.
And they will take on the Gales of Iona.
And they get Iona. Now, Iona is no pushover either. Rick Pitino and the job that he has done with the Iona Gales, that is no pushover of a matchup for UConn. I think that could be a popular upset pick too, but just based on the job that Rick Pitino has done at Iona. But man, I just feel like UConn so strong. We'll see how that goes, but that could be a fun matchup too.
17 wins and a regular season title, then ran away from Marist in the tournament final.
The New Yorkers are going to love that game.
First and second round games now in Denver.
All right, then you've got Denver and Sacramento again. And here in the bottom half of the West. And the 6th seed there. There's my TCU Horned Frogs. There they are, baby. Let's go. Now, I had them as a 5, so the committee dropped them down 1 line. But you cannot deny the job that Jamie Dixon has done with this program, turning it around. Again, when their guards are on, they're one of the best teams in the country. Mike Miles, when he's healthy, plays outstanding. So yeah, TCU always dangerous when they can shoot the ball well.
Friday and Sunday, the 6th seed, the Horned Frogs of TCU highlighted their season, a 23-point road win at Kansas.
Yes, that was a huge win when they took down Kansas.
They'll play.
Okay, and then the last one. Okay, this is the last play-in. So this is the last one for the West. Arizona State's in. Arizona State is in. And Nevada? Nevada got in. Does that mean Rutgers is out? Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. Wow. Nevada is in. Oh my word. There's my first miss. That might mean that Rutgers is out. Oh my gosh. I am genuinely shocked to see Nevada on that board. I did not think that Nevada had done enough, especially after losing their first game to San Jose State in the Mountain West tournament. And especially considering they only had 8 quadrant 1 and 2 wins of their 22 wins and 2 bad losses on their profile. I did not think that Nevada would get in. Wow. Oh, it's going to suck if for me, if TCU and Arizona State have to play each other in the next round. Gosh, that sucks. But hey, I'm happy that the Sun Devils are in. I said that they had done enough to get into the field, and I meant it. But wow, I am surprised. I am genuinely surprised to see Nevada in the field. Wow. If that means Rutgers is out, I'm gonna feel so bad for Rutgers because I think Rutgers should be in. I think even though they have 14 losses, they're one of the stronger teams with 14 losses out there. If you put in West Virginia with 14 losses, I think Rutgers deserves to be in.
The first 4 game in Dayton Wednesday. It'll be the Arizona State Sun Devils out of the Pac-12 taking on the Wolfpack of Nevada.
A couple of weeks ago, right here on CBS, we saw Desmond Cambridge of Arizona State take a half-court shot to win at Arizona, put them in the tournament. He will never pay for another meal in Tempe.
Not likely.
Number 3 seed in the West region, the Wolf.
All right, there's Gonzaga. There's Gonzaga on the 3 line. So Gonzaga and St. Mary's in the same region. Interesting, but that's really no big surprise. But Gonzaga, always a force to make a deep run in this tournament. Can never get over the hump, can never go on to win the whole thing. But certainly, we have seen in years past, they've gone on these impressive runs, Final Fours. They are more than capable of doing it.
Bulldogs of Gonzaga. Coach Mark Few makes it 23 straight NCAA tournament
23 straight appearances.
28-5
Damn.
overall. They'll meet the Antelopes.
Oh, no. No. Oh, no. Gonzaga gets Grand Canyon. Oh, golly. Oh, GC. Oh, that's awful for Grand Canyon. Oh, that's horrible for the Lopes. That's awful. Again, I'm happy to see Grand Canyon in. I'm thrilled for them. But, to get Gonzaga first, that's painful. That is painful for GCU. That's painful. That's rough. That's rough. That's rough. I don't think Grand Canyon is going to be in the tournament very long. I don't. And it sucks that the three of the teams that I'm supporting are all in the same pod in Denver. TCU, Arizona State, Grand Canyon, all in the same pod. And more than likely, none of those 3 are going to come out of that group because obviously Gonzaga is going to be the favorite to come out of that group. Gosh, that's brutal. That's brutal for me. That's brutal.
From the Western Athletic Conference, they were 24-11 on the year. They had to win 4 games in their tournament, the WAC tournament title in the past 3 years. They're second out of the WAC. Now, first and second round games in Sacramento, California on Thursday. And
there's Northwestern. Look at all these teams that I support in the same region. What the hell? There's 4 teams that I support in the same region, in the same half of the region. Man, I'm not going to have very many teams here for very long. Again, congrats to Northwestern. I'm thrilled for the Cats. Second tournament appearance. I'm thrilled for them. But oh my gosh, they're all these teams that I like. Well, obviously we know Purdue's going to be in the East, so they'll be over there. But good grief, that's 4. And VCU's in this region. So technically, I have 5, 6, all in this same region. VCU, TCU, potentially Arizona State, GCU, and Northwestern. All in the same region. NCAA, what are you doing to me? Five of the six teams I follow, all in the same region. What are you doing to me, NCAA? 5 of the 6 teams I support, all in the West region. VCU, TCU, Northwestern, GCU, and potentially Arizona State. NCAA don't like me this year. NCAA don't like me. Y'all don't like me this year. What did I do to piss you off? I live in your state, NCAA. You're in Indianapolis. What did I do? But congrats to the Cats. Second NCAA tournament appearance all time for Northwestern. There you go, guys. There you go. There you go, Northwestern. There you go. They did earn it. They played well all year. They did earn it. I ain't gonna lie to that. And they get Boise State, and that's a tough matchup. That is a very tough matchup for Northwestern because Boise State is well coached. They can score. I watched Boise State a couple times this year. That is a dangerous matchup for Northwestern. I think I had Boise State on the 9. Yeah, I had Boise State as a 9, so they dropped them a little lower. That's a tough matchup for Northwestern.
The Broncos go to consecutive NCAA tournament appearances for just the second time in their school history. Terrific season at 24-9. And rounding out the West region, the third team out of the Pac-12, UCLA.
There's UCLA. Always a dangerous team. Always difficult to play against. 29-5. Always tricky.
For the first time in a decade, UCLA won the Pac-12 regular season championship, winning the league by 4 games over Arizona. Jaime Jaquez Jr. was the Pac-12 Player of the Year. The Bruins went 29-5 overall.
Man, we could potentially see a Gonzaga UCLA rematch in the Sweet 16 of that epic game we had a few years ago. Jalen Suggs hit the buzzer beater. Oh my gosh, that would be insane if we get a Gonzaga UCLA rematch in the Sweet 16 that early. That'd be outstanding.
They get those Bulldogs from.
Okay, I did have this matchup. I did have UCLA and UNC Asheville. I did have this matchup with UCLA and UNC Asheville. Got to squeeze Asheville on this line. There we go. All right, I did have this matchup out of the Bulldogs out of the Big South.
From UNC Asheville out of the Big South. After winning the Big
Okay, I
South,
take that back. So I said the South was a region of death. Nah, fam. The West. The West. The West is the region of death. You look at the top 4 seeds alone. Kansas, UCLA, Gonzaga, Connecticut. Good luck picking a winner out of that region. Seriously, good luck, because any one of those 4 could potentially come out of this region. The West is the region of death. The South could be the region of chaos. The Midwest looks almost like Chalk City, because really, I don't see a whole lot of potential surprise there. And the West is the region of death. Like, seriously, it's to think that potentially we could have, if it goes chalk, we could have Kansas, UConn, and Gonzaga, UCLA. Woo! That is scary. Like, legit. That is legit scary. That is the region of doom, or death, or dicks, whichever you prefer.
Remember, folks, 6'9" can shoot it and plays defense at a high level, protecting the rim.
All right, let's go back to the top of the bracket and back to you, Jay, right?
I like Arkansas here against Illinois.
I do too.
Arkansas can get past Illinois, which is going to be a great game. They match up with Kansas really well. Their length and speed, Nick Smith now playing like he is, they could give Kansas a problem right there, a second-round game.
Today, win an A-10 championship. They're not playing around, and I think that they're going to beat St. Mary's.
Yes, I agree.
What did we do to deserve UConn versus Iona? The rumored Big East career for Rick Pitino might be getting a bit of an early start there. I know UConn wanted to go to the Garden, and I'm looking forward potentially to a rematch of that epic final.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
To Gonzaga,
I
UCLA.
have to say, with the injury issues for UCLA, I think Gonzaga wins that game, goes to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing, Seth, but keep an eye on those Texas Froghorns. They are a terrific team. Mike Miles.
Texas Froghorns? Excuse you. It's horned frogs. Get it right. Texas Froghorns. Ooh, I'm hot. Ooh, you did not, Clark Kellogg. Excuse you. Texas Froghorns. Texas Froghorns. And it's and even get the school wrong. Texas Froghorns, indeed. Oh my gosh, that's awful. That ooh.
Remember, they blew Kansas out in Lawrence earlier in the season. This is a very scary team seated number 6.
All right, guys. So it's game on. Fill out your men's and women's brackets for a chance to win an all-new Tucson area.
And I understand people aren't perfect. I understand slip-ups happen, but you not only got the team wrong there, you got the name wrong too.
Several teams remain on edge. Among those waiting their fate, Florida Atlantic, Oral Roberts, Kansas State, and Marquette. The review of final region and selection show continues live here on CBS.
Texas Froghorns, indeed. Oh, I love this commercial.
A rivalry so intense.
Of course, I love this commercial with little mascots in it. I love it.
Chip Tail Brands.
Sorry, Sonic, I didn't eat that. All right, here we go.
Seriously, a rivalry intense. We can't stay at the same hotel.
See, hi, Chip.
Rodney, Brody, Ramses. You're from the same flock.
Rodney and Ramses in this commercial. I love it.
Okay, fine. Marriott Bonvoy has 30 hotel brands. So we'll get Pirate a room at Courtyard, Chip a room at Westin. Blue Devil, you get the presidential suite at the Ritz-Carlton. Wait. Just because I'm picking Duke, I'm not picking favorites. Chip gets Westin's heavily bad.
I love it.
History Month.
150. Part 150 SLC. NCAA corporate champions and corporate partners.
All right, one region left.
NCAA student athletes throughout the year.
I think it should be no shock here. I should see on the one line.
Welcome back, everyone. 3 brackets down, 1 to go. Still several teams and their fans biting their nails to see what's going to happen, but the wait is now over. Back to the tournament bracket show from the NCAA and its corporate champions. We are now in the lower left quadrant.
And there's Purdue.
Where the Boilermakers of Purdue are the 4th overall, number 1 seed. The 4th time in school history, first time since '96. The Boilermakers are a 1 seed. Won the Big Ten regular season title. Went on to win the Big Ten tournament title. Pretty good season on that team. 29-5 overall. They will play.
Actually, 28-5-1. They're going to play in Columbus, Ohio. That's funny, especially considering they beat Ohio State on their way to the Big Ten tournament title. So if I'm right, and I think I will be here, that means that they will play the winner of Fairleigh Dickinson and Texas Southern.
The winner of the first 4-game and
Wait a minute. We've already seen SEMO and Howard both. That's got to be a typo. That's got to be incorrect. Okay, on the screen it's showing Southeast Missouri State and Howard, but that can't be right because you've already seen SEMO and Howard in a bracket already. We already saw SEMO in one play-in game in the South, and we see Howard as the 16th seed in the West. So I think that's an error on screen.
in Ohio on Wednesday. That game will be between Texas Southern Tigers. Coach Johnny Jones' first losing season at Texas Southern. They still reached the NCAA tournament, winning their third straight Southwest Athletic Conference tournament title. The other opponent, FDU.
Yeah, it's Texas Southern and Fairleigh Dickinson. So the screen is incorrect. It's showing Southeast Missouri State and Howard. That's incorrect. So it is Texas Southern and Fairleigh Dickinson, as I thought it would be. Yeah, I had a feeling that was incorrect. So Texas Southern, the surprising winner of the SWAC tournament, beating Grambling in the final, and then Fairleigh Dickinson winning the NEC, but only because Merrimack, who won the tournament, was ineligible because they are still in their transition period. So Purdue won't know its opponent until later this week.
Out of the Northeast, FDU.
Okay, there they just fixed it on the screen. They just fixed it. I as soon as I paused it, it fixed it. Okay, there you go.
Games last season.
Okay, there's the Memphis Tigers, and they are on the 8 line. So I did get that right. But hey, they deserve it after winning the American tournament in very impressive fashion against Houston today. Memphis played really well. Penny Hardaway's done a great job at the program. They earned that 8th seed.
19 and 15 overall, and the winner of that game will play Purdue. Moving on, the Memphis Tigers, second seed out of the American Athletic, 26 and 8 overall. Penny Hardaway's team upset the number 1 team in the nation, Houston Cougars, for the American tournament.
That is the most dangerous 8th seed.
And then they show Florida Atlantic. That's odd. This selection show is making a myriad of mistakes. Like, seriously, this is they're now making a cavalcade of mistakes here with the wrong matchup on screen for the play-in game. Then they put Memphis on screen as the 8, and then they show Florida Atlantic's watch party. Not to mention Texas Froghorns. That's the most egregious. Like, they're making a lot of mistakes now.
The Memphis Tigers, Kendrick Davis, a dynamic duo point guard. They will be a problem and a tough out.
And there's Florida Atlantic celebrating what they.
Okay, so that's why they showed them, because spoiler alert, there's Florida Atlantic on the 9. There's Florida Atlantic. Very dangerous 9 seed. I had a fear that Florida Atlantic would be put in Purdue's region. I had a huge fear of that, and now it's come to pass. Oh boy. Oh boy. Florida Atlantic scares me. They scare me. They are a very good team. And even if Purdue gets Memphis, that's still a tough matchup too. But this is going to be a tough region for Purdue, I think. To be fair, Purdue has not had much success in the NCAA tournament. Let's be real. they usually tend to peter out to a team that no one expects them to lose to. Need I remind fellow fans, VCU, Little Rock, North Texas, St. Peter's.
Record with their 31 wins, 31-3 on the year.
Oh, Florida Atlantic scares me.
Winning the Conference USA tournament title. Congratulations to the Owls. First and second round games to be played in Orlando on Thursday and Saturday.
Oh, there's that one hated school. There's Puke University. I mean Duke. On the 5 line, as I guess is somewhat expected, because, hey, they did win the ACC tournament. I will give credit where it's due. John Shire, good job winning the ACC tournament in your first season. No easy task. I mean, they're playing their best right now. I can't discredit that. They're playing their best, and they're looking really good. So they are going to be a challenge for anybody they face.
The Duke Blue Devils, number 5 seed, 26-8 on the year, won the ACC tournament title.
Wait, does that mean Duke gets Oral Roberts?
Any better, and Jeremy Roach's return to health. Really
Oh, I will laugh hysterically if they get Oral Roberts. Let's go! Let's go, Oral Roberts! Oh, I want you to beat Duke so bad. Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. Oh, that's the best. Oh, yes. I am picking Oral Roberts to beat Duke so hard. Yes. Oh, yes. Suck on it, Blue Devils. Oh, yes. Let's go, Oral Roberts. I am going to pick them to beat Duke in probably every single freaking bracket I make. Oh, beautiful. Mwah. Beautiful matchup. Love it.
The Golden Eagles going undefeated in Summit League play, 18-0.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
They certainly did. They got Matt Taismith, one of the outstanding scorers in the country.
I love that matchup. Let's go.
Yes, Connor Hanover. Yes, sir. The 4th seed, the Tennessee Volunteers out of the SEC.
Okay, Tennessee's the 4. Tennessee, the team that I, for some stupid reason, picked to win it last year. That backfired in my face. But still a good team regardless. Still a strong team. I don't think it's capable this year of winning the whole thing, especially in this loaded region, but still a good team regardless.
11-7 in the conference. They make it 5 straight NCAA appearances, and they will make out of the Sun Belt.
And they get Louisiana. All right. And I did have Louisiana on the 13 line. All right. So they get Louisiana out of the Sun Belt. They get the Ragin' Cajuns. All right. Surprise winner of the Sun Belt too, because Southern Miss was the favorite, but nope, Louisiana pulled the surprise.
26-7 on the year. They return to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2014 as they beat South Alabama in the Sun Belt tournament finals. Now, moving on down.
All right, then. All right, these are the last ones. So these are in Greensboro and Columbus. I'm really starting to think now that Rutgers got left out. I would be shocked to see him now at this point in the field. I'd be genuinely surprised.
Second round games to be played in Greensboro.
There's Kentucky. The ever dangerous Wildcats. They started playing a lot better of late too. Duke and Kentucky, I got to give at least credit. They both played much better basketball down the stretch. We were really worried about whether Kentucky would even get in the tournament at one point. I did have Kentucky on the 6th line, so but they played a lot better down the stretch. Oscar Tshiebwe, great player.
On Friday
So
and Sunday. Out of the SEC, the Kentucky Wildcats, 21-11 on the year. Coach John Calipari led the Wildcats to a third-place finish in the SEC and 11-3 SEC finish. They have Oscar Sheboy. Enough said.
Right.
Meanwhile, the Providence Friars.
Okay, Providence ends up on the 11 line. That's interesting. I had Providence as a 10. Very interesting that Providence fell that far. But that's probably a good matchup for Kentucky because Providence doesn't tend to score very well.
Be the opponent. Fourth team out of the Big East. Bryce Hopkins, the Kentucky transfer, leads the Friars in scoring, rebounding, and double-doubles.
Seth, what do you think about Providence? They're closer than we thought?
Well, that's about where a lot of people thought, but that's one of the last bubble teams. So if you're a bubble team and you see them coming up, you're not good.
All right, the Kansas State Wildcats are the 3 seed in the East.
Okay, Kansas State. There you go, Grayscale. There's your Wildcats. I did have them on the 3 line. Boy, Kansas State, really good team out of the Big 12. They could certainly make some noise.
They're picked to finish last in the Big 12. Instead, a third-place finish, 11 wins in Big 12 play led to this NCAA tournament appearance. 23-9 overall on the season.
Great first year for Jerome Tang, the head coach at Kansas State.
Who do they get? Out of the Big Sky,
they get Montana State. So they get Montana State, who I actually had as a 15. So the committee bumped Montana State up 1 spot. Montana State played really well down the stretch in the Big Sky. That spot opened up when Eastern Washington lost early in that conference tournament.
5-9 on the year, and 8 consecutive NCAA appearances for the first time in school history after knocking off Northern Arizona in the Big Sky tournament. Now, first and second round games in Columbus, Ohio on Friday.
7 is Michigan State.
The Spartans.
Yep, there's Michigan State. So I have a feeling these last 4 should be Michigan State, USC, Marquette, and Vermont, which means Rutgers is out. Wow, I feel so bad for Rutgers fans. I thought they honestly should have gotten in over Nevada. Michigan State, though, very dangerous 7 seed. Always tough in March.
Great time. They finished 4th in the always tough Big Ten. They are the 8th team out of the Big Ten Conference. They will meet
USC.
Of USC from the Pac-12. Trojans finished tied for second in the Pac-12 with 14 wins.
And that's our last bubble team and the 4th from the Pac-12. Very respectable show.
Now, last 2 slots to be filled. The East, Marquette.
There's Marquette, and then the last one will be Vermont. Yep.
The East Coach of the Year.
So I go 67 for 68 again. 1 team off again because the committee liked Nevada more than Rutgers, which I'm genuinely surprised at that. I really am.
2 seed for the Big East champions. That's a good seed for them.
And they will meet the Catamounts of Vermont. 23-10. These Catamounts are a staple in the NCAA tournament. They at least a share of the American Race regular season title in each of the last 7 seasons. They are the 15th seed in the East Region. All right, let's refocus our attention to the top of this bracket.
Yeah, first of all, just to be clear, that 16th seed is Texas Southern against FDU. 2 very dangerous double-digit seeds here in FAU and Oral Roberts. I do like FAU to beat Memphis. I think Duke's playing too well. The upset pick here is Louisiana over Tennessee.
Good call.
Tennessee overseeded because of their record, but they don't have their point guards to Kai Ziegler. Louisiana wins that game.
Yeah, I like that. They got Jordan Brown, a big guy who can get it done inside. They got tremendous perimeter players around, and they can put the ball in the basket. It'll be a tough matchup for Tennessee.
Down to the bottom of the bracket, Jay.
I look at this Kentucky-Providence game. Bryce Hopkins, Providence's best player, came from Kentucky, but also these 2 teams had high expectations and really had good years, but their fans are crazy. Both of them can. One of them, the one that gets past this game, I think can get to the Sweet 16.
And Marquette looks really strong to me. They're playing at such a high level. And Tyler Kolek, their point guard, has been one of the best players in the country the last month and a half. And that team is well connected, explosive, a lot of versatility offensively. Well, I tell you what, it looks like they've got a pretty good pathway to get to that next level.
They do.
Let's break down the conferences now that earned multiple bids. It looks like this. 9 conferences received multiple bids. The Big Ten and the SEC lead the way with 18.
Big Ten should have had 9.
By the Big 12.
I really think Rutgers got screwed.
The last 4 teams that made the tournament, and the first 4 teams.
Rutgers wasn't even the first team out. Wow. Oklahoma State was ahead of Rutgers as the wow. Then North Carolina was actually the 3rd team out, and then Clemson. Wow. I what else could Rutgers have done? I just can't believe that Rutgers missed the field.
Set. A team left out that you feel should have made it. If so, who would you take out?
Look, I had Rutgers in the field, but they had 4 quad 3 losses, so that's why they were out. Oklahoma State is the one team that got victimized the most by being in the Big 12. They had a lot of quad 1 wins, but too many losses there. And how about North Carolina? They were the 3rd team out. Everybody had kind of buried them. They lost by 1 point to Pittsburgh, and they lost in quadruple overtime to Alabama, the #1 overall seed, all the way back in November. People say those games don't count. Carolina wins that game, they are in the NCAA tournament. That's how
thin the line is. That's exactly right.
I'm happy for my man Jeff Capel, who's turned that fit program around. Great to see them. But this is what's amazing about the tournament. We had them in all along, and they slipped down there. We weren't even thinking about that.
That might be a little bit of an indictment on the lack of strength across the ACC in terms of why they ended up where they did.
And I just want to say, to be fair, if I'm putting a team in, I should take a team out. I had North Carolina State out. I certainly have no huge argument with them being in, but they only had a quad 1 win. I didn't think that was enough. The committee obviously disagreed.
All right, guys, as we take a break, a look at a few of today's more exuberant celebrations. Next, we'll talk with Andrew Motorslav.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear what the committee chair has to say, because, I mean, I don't get me wrong, I love some of these matchups. I think the Midwest and the East have the most potential to be very chalky. I think they're the quote-unquote like weakest, like the top teams have the easiest paths to get where they want to go. The South and the West, to me, are just potentially just either loaded. The West is the region of doom because it's just so loaded with strong teams. The South could potentially be full of chaos. This is going to be a wild tournament. This is going to be wild. This is going to be really wild, y'all. But I'm interested in what the committee chair has to say.
Steve, all to the big dance time now for a quick look at the top 4 seeds by region. The number at the bottom of each region is the sum of the overall seeds of the top 4 in that region. The closer the totals, the more balanced the regions. Not uncommon to see a difference of 5 between the highest and the lowest totals. Joining us now for his insight into the selection and bracketing process, Chris Reynolds, chair of the NCAA Men's Division I Basketball Selection Committee. Chris, thank you for taking the time. Your job is completed. I want to know how it went. there was this shuffling going on with the same basic teams at the top of the rung. How did you end up with Bama, Houston, Kansas, Purdue?
Well, it was an interesting process, and it took a little while. However, what I will say is this: those teams at the top, they perform consistently throughout the year, and so we considered about 6 or 7 teams at the top, and at the end of the day, those 4 teams were the teams we selected.
So, Chris, not only as those 4 number 1 seeds, but you put the whole field in order 1 to 68. So you had Houston as your number 2 overall, Kansas as your number 3 overall. I respectfully would have had that order reversed. And this is significant, as you know, because that means Kansas is going to Las Vegas as opposed to Kansas City, which is in the state of Kansas. So can you just break this down? Kansas 17-1, quad 1 wins. Houston 7-1 in quad 1. But Kansas had the number 1 overall, 7-2. Kansas had the number 1 overall strength of schedule compared to 9-6. They both lost their conference finals. They both had injuries. Kansas didn't have their coach. Why Houston over Kansas?
Well, when you look at Houston, combined 15-2 in the quad 1 and 2, compared to Kansas 21-7 in the quad 1 and 2. And Houston, they were competitive in all their games that they lost, except for today. And we understand today they were out the best player. And so for that reason, we kept Houston at number 2.
Interesting.
That's a good answer because that leads to my question, Chris. First, I always want to give you your props for playing in the Final Four, my man. So you put this together and you play the Final Four. But the injuries on these teams, Marcus Sasser at Houston, you've got a coach, Bill Self. You don't know if he's going to play as you're going through, if he's going to be able to coach as you're going through the process. Jalen Clark at UCLA, how much does that affect seeding as you're talking about this?
A great deal. And when you think about, as you mentioned, you have Texas, Tennessee, Virginia, UCLA, all had player availability issues, and also Coach Self also being out. Certainly is something that the committee talked about throughout the course of the year. It certainly played a factor in seeding and selection, in addition to Rutgers.
Yeah, Chris, you obviously talk about the injury circumstances with teams and players. You also usually have contingency brackets. Could you give us a sense of how many of those were in play as we came down to the stretch?
Yeah, we had about 4 brackets that we put together. And so the committee did a great job of anticipating results. And we looked at the games that took place today. And so we had to take into account results one way or the other. And so we had to have brackets to prepare for all those things because, as you know, for example, the Big Ten championship game butts up to this show.
Yes.
So if we don't have all those things prepared, then we'll find ourselves in trouble.
Chris, it's always, I'm sure, the toughest cut is that first team out, which is Oklahoma State. 6 quad 1 wins, 12 quad 1 losses, 8 overall strength of schedule. What did the Cowboys not do to get in this thing?
Well, when you look at their resume, they had 18 opportunities in the quad 1, and they won only 6 games. And they had opportunities in the non-conference schedule to win some games to enhance their resume, and they fell a little short.
Hey, Chris, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We'll see you somewhere along the road. If not, we'll see you in Houston at the Final Four. March Madness officially tips off with the first.
Okay, well, this is going to be really interesting, guys. This is going to be very, very interesting. I think what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to make copies of the main, which is the one I filled out during the selection show. This is what I usually do. I make copies of this one, of the ones I'm going to fill out, and then I'll probably just do my gut feeling now because I'm in the mood to pick it now. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and I wonder if I can go into my printer settings and do like multiple copies. I should be able to. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can do this here real quick. Let's see. Devices. Printers. Okay. 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 Close that. Okay. Now what I have to do is I should be able to guess I'm going to save this to a different name. And hopefully it'll let me print from this. I'm hoping anyway. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to print there we go. Portrait size is probably fine. Fill page, okay. Print. Okay. All right, so now it should be printing out what the main version that I just scanned. Those right there for now. All right, and then these ones. Is that a hair in the document? There's literally a hair in the South region. I shit you not. I don't know if y'all can see that. There's literally a hair right there. I don't know how that got in there. But there's literally a hair in there. All right. Well, the rest of those are printing because I usually do 10 brackets on Tournament Challenge. So that's how many of these copies I'm making. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to do my gut feeling one now. So this is going to be the Spiky Selections bracket, which is my gut feeling one. Oh, it's gonna be so hard. Like seriously, this is gonna be the hardest yet. All right. So, I mean, granted, the play-ins really don't, like quote unquote count, but I usually do pick them just for fun anyway. So I'm going to take the Islanders to beat SEMO. I'm going to take Pitt to beat Mississippi State. I like the job that Coach Capel has done with Pitt. I'm going to take Texas Southern to beat Fairleigh Dickinson. Because Texas Southern has tournament experience. They've won games in the first four before, and I think they're on a roll right now. And I love team momentum, so I'm going to pick them to win that game. And obviously, I'm going to take Arizona State to beat Nevada. Obviously, even though as much as it pains me to get to play TCU, I don't think Nevada deserves to get in. So I'm going to take Arizona State. All right. So for me, then, Alabama would play Corpus Christi. I'm obviously going to take Bama there. Maryland and West Virginia, I like the Mountaineers. I think West Virginia playing a battle-tested Big 12. I think they're going to come out on top in that game. Obviously, I said it, and I mean it. I'm going to take Charleston to beat San Diego State. Too strong in offense. I watched Charleston play. Just really good team. San Diego State is more defensive-minded. I think Charleston can overcome that. And you know what? I'm starting to somewhat agree with Seth Davis. I'm going to take Furman to beat Virginia. Virginia always, at least recently, seems like a letdown. And again, they struggle to score against Duke. And it just seems like they play good basketball, but then they run into a team that can put up points, and it really hurts them. So that is, again, I think the South region could be a region of chaos, and I think potentially you could see two top seeds go down there. With Creighton and NC State, I'm going to go with the Blue Jays. I just feel like the NC State, decent team, but again, they really haven't beaten anybody strong. And I feel like, and again, Creighton can shoot the ball well, and I think they're going to come out and win that game. As much as I hate it, I think Baylor's going to beat UCSB. Missouri-Utah State is a really dangerous 7-10 game. And both teams have played so well down the stretch. Man, that's tricky. That's tough. but I am going to go. I'm going to go with the Aggies. I just feel like this team is playing so well of late. I like his momentum. I just feel like Utah State is going to get the win there. And then obviously I'm going to take Arizona to beat Princeton. So then I would have Purdue playing Texas Southern. I think Purdue will at least win that game. After that's where it's going to get squirrely. I definitely have Florida Atlantic beating Memphis. To me, Florida Atlantic is just a scary team. Obviously, I have Oral Roberts beating Duke. I said it. I'm going to do it. And they did mention on the show that they think that Louisiana can knock off Tennessee. That one's tempting too. That one is really tempting too. Because again, these mid-majors are really dangerous. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Louisiana Lafayette. I like Kentucky to beat Providence. Obviously, I like Kansas State to beat Montana State. Michigan State and USC. Gosh, that one's tricky. The Tom Izzo teams do tend to play well in March, and they're playing in a Big Ten backyard. I'm going to take Michigan State. And obviously, I got Marquette beating Vermont. Houston and Northern Kentucky. I think Houston will have enough depth to get past Northern Kentucky. Obviously, Marcus Sasser's health is the big question for Houston. But I think they have enough to get past that game. So I'm going to go with Houston there. Iowa and Auburn. I'm going to take the Hawkeyes. Auburn has been struggling down the stretch. I'm surprised, honestly, they're on the 9 line. So I'm going to go with Iowa. I think Miami beats Drake. I know that Drake is a really good team, but Miami, to me, too strong with their guard play. So I got Miami winning that one. And I think Indiana's really dangerous. Even though Kent State's a good team, I'm going to take IU to beat Kent State. I would have Iowa State taking on Pitt. Ooh, that would be a very tough matchup for Iowa State. I think Pitt is that one team that could win at least one multiple game in the tournament. I'm going to take Pitt in that game. I'd have Xavier beating Kennesaw State. Great story of the Owls, but I don't see them springing the upset here. Xavier too strong. I'm going to take Penn State to beat Texas A&M. I just think they find a way. Penn State is playing with just house money right now, so dangerous. So I think they find a way to beat Texas A&M and deny us the match with Texas. So I think we'll beat Colgate, even though Colgate might give them a game. I think Texas is too strong. Obviously, I think Kansas beats Howard in the West region. I have Arkansas beating Illinois. Obviously, I'm taking VCU to beat St. Mary's. I have UConn beating Iona. I mean, certainly Iona could win that game, but to me, UConn way too strong. I would have then I'd have TCU playing Arizona State. As much as that pains me, but I'd have to go with the Frogs there. I mean, the backcourt is just so strong. I obviously have, unfortunately, as much as it pains me, no way GCU is beating Gonzaga. Sorry, Lokes, it's just not happening. Northwestern and Boise State is so tricky, but I'm going to go with Northwestern. And then obviously I would have UCLA beating UNC Asheville. All right, then back to the South. Alabama, West Virginia. Bama, too strong. Bob Huggins, well coached, but I don't think he has the weapons of the talent there. I think Alabama beats West Virginia. Charleston and Furman, I'm going to keep College of Charleston's run going. I think they find a way to the Sweet 16. Creighton and Baylor. Oh, as much as it pains me, I think Baylor too strong for Creighton. And then Utah State against Arizona. Solid matchup there, but I'm going to go with Arizona. Purdue and Florida Atlantic scares the hell out of me. This is where Purdue would stumble. This is where potentially they could really stumble. They are the weakest number 1 seed. They have a tendency to lose to these teams they shouldn't lose to. I never pick them to win the tournament. I never do. I never pick them to win at all because I don't feel confident in them because they haven't made a Final Four in my lifetime. So there's precedent here. So I don't pick them to win. So Florida Atlantic. Oral Roberts in Louisiana. Max Asmus, too strong. Oral Roberts. Kentucky and Kansas State. Fart Kentucky. Even though I'm not a fan of Willie the Wildcat with the cat head, I got to take Kansas State. The Michigan State and Marquette, too strong here. I'm going with the Golden Eagles. Then you've got, on the other side, I've got Houston and Iowa. Again, Houston, how far they go will depend on the health of Marcus Sasser. Iowa certainly is a team that can play well against them, but to me, Houston still has a lot of strong depth, and I will take them to beat Iowa. Miami and IU, I'm going to take the Hoosiers. I said it. I said it, and I mean it. I think Indiana is going to go further in the tournament than Purdue does. I really do, because not only did IU beat us twice this year, they're just playing better basketball right now. Pitt and Xavier. Pitt certainly is a team that can give Xavier fits, but to me, X is too strong. I like Xavier. And Penn State and Texas. As much as I want to pick the Nittany Lions there, to me, Texas just looks too much like a complete team. I'm going with the Longhorns. Kansas and Arkansas. Certainly Arkansas can give Kansas fits, but to me, Kansas, way too strong. I'm going to take VCU to take down UConn. I think VCU can make it to the Sweet 16 at least. I think VCU can do it. This is crazy. I have 3 12 seeds making the Sweet 16. That's nuts. But Charleston, Oral Roberts, VCU, I think they can all do it. TCU, Gonzaga. Gonzaga always tends to struggle at the wrong time. Like they have these great teams and they can never get it done in the postseason. I think TCU is built. I think they can find a way. But I do not think that Northwestern beats UCLA. I don't. I think UCLA is too strong at the end of the day. All right. Then Bama and Charleston. As much as I would love to take the Cougars here, again, to me, Alabama, too strong. I'm going to take them. I'm not taking Baylor to beat Arizona. I am taking Arizona. Florida Atlantic and Oral Roberts. Gosh, 2 teams that can really score the basketball well. But Oral Roberts still has Max Asmus. He's still a star. Oh my God. I hope that's not what I thought it was, but I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Man. Both really good teams, but I'm going to go with Oral Roberts. And then K-State and Marquette, I'm going to go with the Golden Eagles. So I have Golden Eagles against Golden Eagles. That's funny. Now this is where it gets interesting. Houston and IU. I'm going Hoosiers. I think this is where if Houston is without Marcus Sasser, they struggle. And Kelvin Sampson going against his former team.
I guess it's like going to a movie. It's better not to know the ending. Speaking of which,
Xavier in Texas.
right? Don't you think the Oscars would be better?
I am going to go with the Longhorns.
Oh, that's what I really need is another part-time job.
Kansas VCU. That'd be a rematch.
There you go. Next year, hit them all. Your time's so appreciated. You know how much we love the content, the tournament, the bracket, and your time. We enjoy visiting with you, Joe. Thanks.
Well, you make it fun, Scott, and let's just 67 games.
Right on. Giddy up.
As much as I would love to take VCU here, I just feel like Kansas is just so strong. I'm going to take Kansas there. And then TCU and UCLA. Again, Bruins, too strong. All right, so then usually what I've read is the history shows that at least either like 2 1 seeds and a 2 or a couple 1s and a 2 make the Final Four, and then something like 5 or below. With Bama and Arizona, this is where Bama's run ends to me. I'm going to go with Arizona. I'm going to go with Marquette to end Oral Roberts' run. I'm going to go with Texas to beat IU. And I'm going to go with Kansas to get back to the Final Four and beat UCLA. So I have 3 2 seeds and I have a 1. I mean, but I think these 4 teams to me are really, really strong. And then with Arizona and Marquette, tough to pick against Shaka Smart's team. I'm going to go with the Golden Eagles to reach the title game. Then Texas and Kansas, a rematch of the Big 12 title game. This time with Bill Self behind the bench. I think the Jayhawks get revenge. Creating a final of Marquette and Kansas. It would be obviously incredible if Kansas were to go back-to-back and win it all again. But with this wild, crazy season that we've been in, and not really having a dominant team as the favorite, it would be something if something like different happened, didn't it? It'd be kind of cathartic to the way the season was. I am going to go with Shaka Smart and the Marquette Golden Eagles to win it all. So, Shaka, I either just gave your team the kiss of death or you're going to prove me right. There you go. I'm riding Marquette. I don't know why, but they dominated the Big East. They played in a really good conference. They played really well. They really don't have much of a way of challenges in their path in the bracket. unless they run into like Kentucky or if Kansas State plays at their peak, they're certainly, I think, at least going to go to the Elite Eight. And then from there, who knows? But I think there's going to be chaos all up here. So that's going to open up the path for them. And then they're going to find a way the rest of the way. So that's my gut feeling. I got Marquette. So thank you guys so much for joining me on this. Had a lot of fun with it. Interesting the way the committee broke things down. Some great matchups. And it surprised me with Nevada getting over Rutgers. Surprise, but we'll see what happens. It's the best time of the year. Thank you all so much. Good luck in your picking.